When did
Yeah.
Blake get the flu?
So Blake, on February 14th, he had went to school. It was a Friday, and it was a early release day. So he got out about 1 o'clock, and I was still at work. But I did hear from my husband that that Blake came home not feeling great. And we were planning a trip about 5 hours south for a weekend of snowboarding. It was a Christmas gift from his grandparents, and they were going with us to take him snowboarding. And so by the time I got off work at about 4 o'clock, I got home, and he had crawled in the back seat of his grandparents' vehicle and went to sleep, and had decided that he wanted to go still. And so I didn't even see him that evening because he was in a different vehicle. They took off. He slept in the back. We got down there that evening, of course, late. And he was just puny, just didn't feel great. The flu had definitely been going around. I'd had a friend that from work that had missed the whole week because her son was out with the flu, and it was pretty nasty. So I knew that. Next morning we woke up, and he got up as normal. He still wasn't feeling great, but his biggest complaint was a sore throat, a severe sore throat. He got up, he took a shower, he tried to eat breakfast, and he was like, man, this sore throat's really bothering me. We decided to take him to the emergency room at that point, basically just in hopes that maybe we were dealing with strep throat, and some quick medicine might save our weekend after a day or two. So we did that. We went to the emergency room. He, again, he wasn't really very sick, just his major sore throat. They tested him for strep while we were there, and the strep test came back negative. So they told us that he must just have a virus and needs to be put to bed. So, and no snowboarding was our direction from the emergency room doctor. So we took him back to our motel room, and we put him, we got him lots of fluids, got him some food to have in the room. He was taking NyQuil and just wanted to sleep. We went out to dinner while he slept. And when we came back, it had progressed to where he had he had a cough. He had developed a cough, and he was describing a pain in his upper back that our understanding, my husband and I think both were interpreting it as he had pinched a nerve or something from coughing in his back, or he'd been laying down for 2 days now, and so he would react with his back hurting if he would cough, and so we just thought it was like a pinched nerve. So in the middle of the night, he woke up once complaining of struggling to breathe. He woke up, I can't breathe. And we again were interpreting that as, the muscle problem that we were thinking he had in his back. We'd calmed him and gave him some more medicine. And so the next morning we decided to get home. Obviously our trip was not working out. So we left a day early. And he was getting weaker, and he hadn't eaten, and we were worried about him drinking enough and so on. But he walked himself to our car, and we drove home. He slept the entire way home. We got there. He walked himself upstairs to his bedroom. My husband was the one that was going up and checking on him in the next. We were home about 2 hours, and he was sleeping. But then he started throwing up blood. He started throwing up, and there was blood in it. And so we knew that that was something that we we didn't know what was happening at this point, not normal with the flu. So that's when we decided to take him to our local emergency room. And you know what, he walked himself downstairs and he walked himself to our car. He was weak, you know, so we walked with him, and we got to the hospital, and again, he walked himself in by our side. But we were only there really a few minutes when they took him back and started noticing his color. The color was draining from his face. About the same time they were checking the oximeter on his finger, and it wasn't registering. So the first thing they told us as they began the panic rush back to the room was they thought maybe he had a collapsed lung from coughing, which was shocking to me even that. From there, I believe they did x-rays and they found that he had blood in his lungs. His lungs were filled with blood, and I didn't understand what that meant. To me, the worst case scenario for me, in my understanding of I didn't even know he had the flu at this point, but I was thinking pneumonia. And so but then they told me they wanted to fly him to a children's hospital 4 hours away. And so we were waiting for that. And the next test that came back was a test, influenza B. So they announced influenza B positive. And I remember not understanding what that meant. It just really wasn't. It was happening fast, and I was in shock. And I didn't understand the connection. In the end, they were not able to get, once the flight team showed to get him life flighted to the children's hospital, and which required them to transfer him from the equipment because they had intubated him. They weren't able to get him stable again after they tried to switch the machines. So that got canceled, and he ended up going into cardiac arrest multiple times until he passed at 2 a.m. that night.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a hard story.
It is a hard story. I try to tell it, stoically, but
yeah, you do,
because I want to be able to share it. But
what makes
worst
you
night of my life.
Share it?
Excuse me, what was that?
What makes you want to share this story?
Well, immediately after it happened, I was still very confused, and I felt like I had failed my son. I guess the first, even driving home from the hospital that night, talking to my husband, I said, life changes from here, and this ruins people, and we have to be careful. We're going to have to be really careful and take some steps to be healthy in our healing of this. We have 2 grown daughters as well. So with that, I knew that I didn't want to hold anything in. I wanted to be able to share exactly what happened, so as not to hold on to it in a shameful way. But also, as I learned what happened, as I learned that this was the flu and this happens.